Welcome everyone to 284 News. My name is Javon Wilson.
I'm Kamal Haynes.
And I'm Ron Grant.
And we are so thrilled and happy to be coming to you live out of the beautiful British Virgin Islands. The content continues via our website, 284media.com. In today's news, Immigration Minister proposes that fines and penalties be increased to up to $100,000 and 10 years imprisonment for illegal entry.
And persons who recently fully recovered from COVID-19 can get vaccinated right away. They no longer have to wait 1 to 3 months afterwards.
We also see the Chief Immigration Officer. He will now be able to administer and compound fines for illegal entry under the proposed amendments by Minister Wheatley.
And the introduction of a standalone Ministry of Sport in the BVI not in immediate future plans. The National Sports Council the way forward.
We also see as the journey to a salary compensation review continues, government is now seeking consultants to consult a comprehensive review. We have all the details for these stories and so much more on today's edition of 284 News.
You value traditions. Today, you value music. You value education. Family.
I love you.
Service.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Love. Life. At Popular, we're committed to you and everything our community values. For the things you value the most, count on us. Popular.
Welcome everyone. It's Thursday, August 26, 2021. I'm Kamal Haynes.
And my name is Javon Wilson. A terrific Thursday here in the beautiful British Virgin Islands. And of course, we are here with your daily dose of 284 News. Now, topping our headlines tomorrow, something to look forward to. The BVI Tourist Board is now presenting you with the opportunity to bring your friends and meet new ones at their staycation pop-up. When? Again, tomorrow, Friday, August 27th. At Tropics at the Pier Park, so you can have the opportunity to now come out and sample signature cocktails, shots, and of course be able to win an opportunity to staycation BVI style. Of course, 284 Media will be live on the scene, but of course, in order to cash in, you must join us between 5 and 7 again at Tropics.
Well, viewers, we start today's news with COVID-19, where persons who have recently fully recovered from the COVID-19 virus do not have to wait a month or even 3 months before getting vaccinated. But this is according to the national epidemiologist Harmony Bruley-Messiah, who made a statement during a recent COVID-19 panel discussion, where she advised residents who have fully recovered from the COVID-19 virus to seek vaccination as soon as possible to further protect themselves from being reinfected with the virus.
Recovering from COVID-19 is not a limitation for you getting the vaccine.
Right.
If you don't have any symptoms and you're recovered, you can go and get the vaccine. You do not have to wait 3 months. 3 months is only if you got monoclonal antibody therapy.
Right.
Okay, and nor do you have to wait 1 month. The 1 month time frame was given because, you know, after you've had an infection, you would have that immune effect, right? So they were saying, okay, after 1 month, when the immunity starts to wane, then you get that vaccine and it acts as a booster.
Right.
But you don't need to wait 1 month.
Right.
You can go and get it and have that antibody immune effect layered upon the natural
Right.
immunity that you got from the infection.
So that's a very good point. We're actually recommending people shortly after they have they've recovered, that they can go ahead and get the vaccine. They don't need to wait 3 months. They don't need to wait the 28 days. I think they can go ahead.
Well, viewers, that was the Acting Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Ronald Georges, who also shared the same sentiment. Well, Bruley-Messiah also said that there was a growing concern among medical professionals with the growth of how the COVID-19 virus has been impacting young people. Well, she said this is a trend that has not only been spotted internationally and in the region, but also here in the BVI.
The public needs to be concerned that there's a phenomenon that is being seen around the globe whereby there's a shift now where COVID is actually affecting the younger populations.
Right.
Because a lot of the older populations, those, have been vaccinated. So obviously, if it's going to adapt, it's going to evolve, and it's going to start to impact the younger populations, and that's exactly what we're seeing here. And we have a very large percentage of unvaccinated young people here in the territory.
While the national epidemiologist therefore urged more young persons to come forward and seek vaccination, as the territory aims to reach its goal of having between 70 to 80% of its population fully vaccinated to reach herd immunity. But the latest vaccination summary dated August 23rd stated that a total of 17,095 persons were fully and partially vaccinated. Of that sum, 12,733 were fully vaccinated. Well, Javon, this is some good news for persons who have been a little bit hesitant when it comes to going forward and getting vaccinated shortly after testing positive from COVID-19.
Yes, and certainly new developments that will help the vaccination process. As we move on, in an attempt to reform immigration, Minister for Natural Resources and Labor, Honorable Vincent Wheatley, has proposed a few amendments to the Immigration and Passport Act, which was today debated by members of the House of Assembly. Now, among the proposed amendments is the minister's intention to increase penalties and fees in an effort to deter illegal entry. Now, despite the current measures in place, Minister Wheatley said illegal entry remains a common issue. Listen in.
The Immigration Department has continued over the years to be faced with persons who seemingly have evaded or sea patrols. In these instances, Mr. Speaker, the relevant fines are administered and the required imprisonment enacted following court proceedings, which ultimately ends with the person being repatriated or deported to their homeland. Mr. Speaker, unfortunately, just last night, there was a case of illegal entry into the territory.
Now, viewers, the incident the Honorable Minister, of course, mentioned in short was actually reported on by us just yesterday, which showed that illegal immigrants of Haitian descent leading law enforcement on a chase before being captured and deported. Now, Minister Wheatley also spoke to the increased challenges associated with COVID-19 and how that affects illegal entry as well. Let's watch.
Mr. Speaker, during the present COVID-19 era, we are also now faced with a double threat due to persons not only entering illegally, but also having the ability to introduce the virus into our communities. With increased activity on the southern and northwestern borders of the Virgin Islands, to and from the USVI, where the virus has been evidently rampant, extra mediation is necessary. However, it is evident that not all illegal entry will be intercepted prior to them landing on our shores, and there are many who may have arrived prior to the introduction of the initiatives by the Joint Task Force.
Now, viewers, once an illegal immigrant is detained, local government then incurs a very hefty cost to deport them. And even when the fines administered are paid, it is still not enough to recoup costs. And this is according to Minister Wheatley as he spoke today in the House of Assembly.
The Immigration Department has introduced an increased enforcement tactical plan to monitor, raid, detain, and repatriate any illegal immigrants already here in the BVI. Mr. Speaker, I might add, this is a very costly undertaking, as some of these charters can range as high as $20,000 each. Though these persons, through this, many persons are being detained and repatriated to their homeland, to their home country, and others will be over time. This detention process includes the administering of very minimal fines and imprisonment following court proceedings, which may take an extended period, causing detainees to remain in custody for several weeks or months. The elongated detention of a person by the Immigration Department results in excessive costs to the government, which is an unwanted financial burden, particularly in a time like now. Currently, this financial burden is not adequately offset by the fines collected under Section 20 of the Immigration and Passport Act due to the extremely low rates applied for offenses.
Now, viewers, as such, Minister Wheatley also spoke to the importance of drastically increasing the penalties and fees to deter illegal entry. Let's watch.
In comparison to other jurisdictions that face similar issues of smuggling and illegal entry across the region, the BVI fines are significantly lower. with a recommendation to increase fines and penalties from 1,000 and 12 months imprisonment to 100,000 and 10 years imprisonment, the BVI will indeed surpass other overseas territories, but it will set the tone for non-compliance. Over the years, both the Cayman Islands and the Turks and Caicos Islands continue to see high numbers of smuggling to their shores, even though they carry fines in a range of 20,000 and 50,000. It is a belief that some of these figures still do not deter a person from seeking to enter, and therefore builds a rationale for the BVI to introduce even higher fines than these overseas territories.
Now, viewers, up to the time of this taping, the members of the House of Assembly collectively were able to move the bill, and it was also seconded, and they eventually went into committee stages to further discuss the bill. We are not sure at this time if it was passed, but of course updates will be provided as they are made available to us.
Our viewers, still ahead, the introduction of a standalone Ministry of Sport in the BVI, not in immediate future plans. A National Sports Council the way forward, and Chief Immigration Officer will be able to administer and compound fines for illegal entry under proposed amendments by Minister Vincent Wheatley. These and so much more after a word from our sponsors. Viewers, welcome back. Well, the British Virgin Islands will not be instituting a standalone Ministry of Sport, at least not in the immediate future. Well, this was the response given to 284 Media by the Minister of Education, Culture, Youth Affairs, Fisheries and Agriculture, Dr. Natalia Wheatley, who is also responsible for sport in the territory. Well, Dr. Wheatley was responding to questions posed while attending a recent post-Olympic Games media conference, where he was asked by our news reporter whether the BVI government intends to introduce a Ministry of Sport to allow for the proper development of sports in the BVI. Well, the minister responded by stating that the constitutional provisions would make such a move very difficult, coupled with the reality that there are presently other persons who are also seeking for individual ministries. Take a listen.
In our constitution, we can add another ministry, but in order to add another ministry, you'll have to add 2 extra seats to maintain a particular ratio of ministers to backbenchers. So basically, I don't necessarily see that happening this time around in terms of adding extra 2 seats. So I will have to say that we'll have to do the best that we can with the number of ministries we have right now. And even if we added another ministry, it's not a certainty that it would be a sports ministry, because persons have been crying out for other types of ministries as well.
Well, viewers, Dr. Wheatley said he believes the Ministry of Sport in the BVI is not a necessity at this present moment, stating that a comprehensive plan for sport in the territory is the key for local development. He said while a plan already exists, it will further solidify once the government signs a memorandum of understanding with the relevant authorities.
For us to progress, I don't necessarily think that we have to have a Ministry of Sport. What we really need is what I have been discussing with the BVI Olympic Committee, in all the different federations. It's just basically executing a plan, and the plan exists. Certainly, I've spoken to the president of the BVI OC and the executive members. And when we return, we're going to sit down and we're going to have a meeting. Of course, we've had meetings before, and some of those meetings have resulted in progress. But we're going to sit down and have further meetings about signing a memorandum of understanding to execute the programs that will help with grassroots development of sports, that will be able to feed into the elite athlete program that the BVI OC has. So the plans exist. We'll get the memorandum of understanding signed, and we'll progress there. The BVI government has put a tremendous amount of money into repairing facilities following Hurricane Irma. We also have plans of having dedicated sources of funding for sports, that creative revenue ideas, similar to the money services tax that we had, that go into 5 different areas, which is education, agriculture, fisheries, first-time home owners, and our seniors. So we have other streams of revenue that will be going directly into sports to provide additional revenue.
Well, Dr. Wheatley, who is also the Deputy Premier, further said that he will be pressing forward to have the Sport Management Council legislation passed in the House of Assembly by year end, which would facilitate the establishment of a National Sports Council in the BVI. Well, he said this Sports Council will be the key to assist with the future development of local sports.
As it pertains to legislation, we have the Sports Management Council legislation that the BVI Olympic Committee was helping us with by engaging a consultant who's Mr. Keith Joseph, to look over our Sports Management Council legislation. And now the BVI OC has the legislation, and they're taking a look at it from their particular perspective. And we hope to have that passed before the end of the year, because certainly it was in the speech from the throne, and I intend to have it passed. And that will allow for a greater degree of coordination between the government and the various associations and federations, along with the Olympic Committee. So everyone is on the same page, and we are all, doing this a coordinated effort, as opposed to everyone doing their own things.
Well, viewers, Dr. Wheatley said the National Sports Council will assist with improving the coordination of funding and events, and will see the introduction of National Sports Calendar Year. He also said it will establish a national budget for sports, which will increase accountability for associations receiving funds from the government and increase opportunities for funding from international organizations and federations. Well, Javon, this is some very good news. I mean, for the obviously sports in the territory in terms of a National Sports Council. But I would just like to say, in terms of, I was the one asking the question as it pertains to the Ministry of Sport in the territory, because at that particular point, the minister was speaking as in terms of the development of more national athletes competing in international games and stuff. And I felt that if such is supposed to be done, there should be a Ministry of Sports, and he would have explained to me in terms of what the Constitution allows and the adjustments that would have to be made to allow such provisions.
Absolutely. Now, viewers, as we move on, to further assist the Immigration Department in becoming better able to enforce the law, as well as to have the autonomy to handle its affairs in a timely manner, it is necessary for the Chief Immigration Officer to be able to administer and compound fines without the assistance of the courts where possible. This is according to the Minister for Natural Resources, Labor and Immigration, Honorable Vincent Wheatley, who made the proposed amendment today during the House of Assembly. Let's watch.
As is the case with Her Majesty's Customs, where the Commission of Customs can compound offences and administer penalties under the Customs Management and Duties Act, Section 126. The Chief Immigration Officer and his department will benefit from these types of powers. Currently, and as stated before, the department depends heavily on the legal system to administer any charges and fines, which often is a lengthy process that costs the government daily. In many cases, there is the ability to issue a fine, receive payment, and have the offenders on their way without undue financial burden, if they were given the authority to perform the functions as per the proposed bill.
Viewers, the minister said that this ties into the ministry's overall agenda to deter illegal entry. Let's watch.
It is important to note that if these powers are given to the Chief Immigration Officer, the whole of the post will be able to administer warnings instead of penalties where necessary. Mr. Speaker, this type of discretion is important as it will allow for persons who may accidentally veer into the BVI waters or enter as a visitor without proper knowledge of the procedures to be given a warning and released. This would be an alternative to detaining these persons and awaiting court proceedings, thus increasing the financial burden and loss of time by all concerned.
Now, viewers, Minister Wheatley capsuled how this amendment will allow for the Chief Immigration Officer to offer discretion in cases where it was unintentional, and also, of course, in a wider agenda to deter illegal entry here, as we've seen over the years with quite a porous border, something that we've been trying to tackle for years. So hopefully with increased fines and penalties, that will no longer be the case.
Well, viewers, up next, Crab Island Invitational Fishing Series set for mid-September. And the government is now seeking consultants to conduct comprehensive review of public servant salaries. We get to these stories after a word from our sponsors.
The wait is over. CCT Fire is here. Experience ultra-fast downloads, seamless streaming, and even more reliable connectivity on an all-new fire-blazing super-fast CCT Fiber network. CCT Fire. Bring it home and upgrade today.
Welcome back, viewers. Well, the highly anticipated Crab Island Invitational Fishing Series is set to occur in the British Virgin Islands from September 16th to 24th. Well, this announcement was made in a media release from Crab Island Resort, Spa and Marina, which said the fishing series is being produced by Bonnier Events. Well, the competition will comprise of 2 separate 3-day tournaments and is expected to attract an impressive lineup of boats, all competing for the coveted series title and prize money. Well, speaking on the tournament was General Manager of Crab Island Resort, Michael Suegan, who said, the following success of the first tournament in 2019, it was only fitting to make the tournament a reality once again. Well, he said, and I quote, the inaugural tournament was such a huge success, drawing very accomplished teams from various countries, and we expect a great deal of interest for this year's event from competitors anxious to get out and enjoy the challenge. We have full support from the BVI government and the BVI Department of Conservation and Fisheries and tremendous feedback from the most devoted of anglers, end quote. Well, according to the AAA 4-Diamond Resort, during the tournament, anglers and their families will be able to enjoy the resort's top-tier amenities, including a Zoro Spa, world-class restaurants, 2 private beaches, a 4-tiered pool with waterfalls, a 55-slip marina, and more. Well, in addition, the resort stated that yachts and watercraft of all sizes are available for group and private charters, with activities ranging from sightseeing to deep-sea fishing. For persons interested in more information on this event can visit scrubislandinvitation.com.
All right, as we begin to close out, the government of the Virgin Islands is now seeking consultants to conduct a comprehensive review of compensation throughout the Virgin Islands public service, inclusive of a job classification. Now, the procurement coordinator, Mrs. Aisha Reimers, said, and I quote, the overarching objective of this consultancy is to support modernizing the employment terms and conditions to enhance performance across the Virgin Islands public service, end of quote. Now, viewers, for those who are persons who are interested, they are now encouraged to submit electronic submissions of proposals, and that should be sent to Mrs. Reimer in a non-editable format and not exceeding a 10 megabyte size at email address procurement @gov.vg. The file name and the email subject must bear the applicant's name and also, and I quote, RFP for Public Service Compensation Review and Job Classification. And that should be done no later than September 28, 2021 at 10 a.m. Now, in an invited comment by our newsroom, Deputy Governor David Archer, whose office is currently overseeing the process, said once the review is complete, they will then revert to the government for approval. And of course, that will be eventually included in the budgetary process. Mr. Archer said, and I quote, "The proposals from the consultants will also determine the length of the exercise. Once the selected consultant completes the exercise with full stakeholder consultation, the work will be presented to Cabinet for deliberation and a decision. The Department of Human Resources will be actively involved in the process to ensure a smooth process throughout the consultancy." End of quote. Now, viewers, the Deputy Governor also added, and I quote, "When the last exercise was completed, I was the Director of Human Resources, and I am equally happy as Deputy Governor to be present at this time to see one of the objectives of the Department of Human Resources and, of course, the overall government of the Virgin Islands being executed." Now, for more information, persons can contact the procurement coordinator at 284-496, that is 284-468-4243, or 284-468-5921, or you can email the procurement @gov.vg. I know, Kamal, this has been an ongoing conversation in the initial stages, and I think what really brought it to the forefront, even though we've been having the conversation for quite a number of years, I think what placed a magnifying glass over the issue was that teacher coming so candidly to social media to express and compare what she's earning in comparison to what she has to pay her bills, the cost of living as well here in the territory. And we've continued to hear this. We've also seen qualified professionals within the public service, even if they are under government scholarship, coming back to the territory, and after recognizing that it's not profitable, it does not benefit them to stay and work here as it relates to compensation, leaving with the necessary skills and expertise that we so badly need here in the territory, which also add to the issue of immigration that we're seeing here in the territory, because many of the posts or vacancies that are open, we would need to import labor for. But again, it boils back down to compensation, which many are calling meager as it relates to the public service. We spoke to the governor. The governor did say that while the portfolio of public service falls under his responsibility, it is really up to the government. I think what he neglected to say, and this is according to the Minister of Education, Dr. the Honorable Natalia Wheatley, is the fact that yes, it is government's responsibility to budget for the salary increase. However, the responsibility of salary review belongs with the Deputy Governor's office. So I'm very happy to see we are finally seeing some concrete steps being made towards this, because as we examine the trajectory over the last couple of years, we have to admit that this is an issue that was kicked back and forth between successive governments.
Well, Devon, my take on this, while it's good to see government actually making a move towards dealing with this situation, is a matter of waiting to see whether it will actually happen.
Right.
I know you just mentioned the teacher situation from a couple of weeks ago, which to me was the nail in the coffin. But the whole issues of salaries and paying, especially locals, have always been an issue. Persons who go away to college and universities and come back with master's degrees and PhDs and stuff are heavily being underpaid, and we would have seen a lot of that coming out of the COI, where the Director of Public Prosecution would have also said that it would have been hard to she was having difficulties finding persons to fill some of the positions because of the pay, and not only because of the pay, because of how long it usually takes to actually get these persons employed. And that was also seen in immigration. It was also seen in education as recent. It's seen across the public sector in its entirety in the BVI, and I think the government now is trying to make a move now to rectify this issue that have been existing in the territory for some decades.
Well, it's definitely time. That was 20 years ago, and we're so happy to see moves being made. But viewers, that is all the time we have. My name is Javon Wilson.
And I'm Kamal Haynes. Thank you for joining us. Have a good evening.